This tutorial will show you how to use the Street Distance Finder apps. Here is a diagram of the general app workflow. The first thing you should notice for the Street Distance Finder apps is the origin and destination CSV maker. Your origin and destination CSV files need to be formatted using this app before you can use the Distance Finder apps. To get to these apps, go to the portal website and then the workspace. First you have to log in. And go to Origin and Destination CSV Maker. Here you will drag and drop the CSV file with the origin coordinates. Here you drag and drop the CSV file that contains the destination coordinates. And then these three are the column numbers of the ID, latitude, and longitude for the origin file. And the last three are the ID, latitude, and longitude column numbers for the destination file. After you run this app, the output of this app will then be used as coordinate inputs for the OpenStreetMap distance finder algorithms. So the first place you could start is with osmosis. Osmosis is optional, however. So osmosis trims a map file. So you can get your map files, for example, from geofabric.de. Go to Downloads. Go to whichever data set you want, and then download the OSM.pbf version, not the OSM BZ2. Download the PBF version. Now, if you want to use osmosis, osmosis is used to trim the map based on a boundary box. So go to osmosis BB. BB stands for boundary box. So once you upload the map file that you got from somewhere on the internet, like GeoFabric, to your data depot, you'll drag and drop that here. And then you will enter the latitude of the top of the bounding box, the latitude of the bottom of the bounding box, the longitude of the left side of the bounding box, and the longitude of the right side of the bounding box. Then you can click Run, set it for about 2 hours, and that will trim the map down to the area defined by your bounding box. So this bounding box only works for where the top and the bottom are of constant latitude and the left and right side are constant longitude. Now, if you want to do anything more complicated with osmosis, you can go to the Osmosis General app, and you'll want to put your map file in a folder, and then drag and drop, or you don't have to. You can just do the file, drag and drop the file, and then you can select whether it's a file or a folder. And then you'll enter the osmosis command to be executed without the word osmosis in front. And you can do 2 more commands if you wish, but you only have to do 1 command. These commands will execute in this order: this one first, then second, then third. To learn how to use osmosis and what it does, you can go to wiki.openstreetmap.org/wiki/osmosis, and it will give you a bunch of information on osmosis. So for example, this would be an osmosis command. So if you wanted to run this command in the Osmosis General, you would paste this command into here without the osmosis in front. Now again, either of these apps is optional. You only need to use it if you need to do any pre-processing on your map before it goes into the OpenStreetMap distances algorithm. So for example, the most common, like I said before, the most common pre-processing function you'll need to do is trimming the map to a certain area, and that's what the Osmosis bounding box app does. So that's why there's a separate app for that function. Now, if you don't need to do any pre-processing, then you can just ignore this step. The next step can be split into two different routes. Either you can run OSM preprocessor and then OSRM distances, or instead of that, you can just run OSRM full. The difference is that the OSRM preprocessor does further preprocessing on the OSM.pbf map and turns it into a .osrm map file. And then you would input the .osrm map file into this app. So that's if you want to run it separately. The OSRM full app simply combines these two functions. So with the OSRM full app, you would input your OSM.pbf that you downloaded, and then it will run the OSRM preprocessor automatically for you, and then output the distances. So let's run through the first possibility, which is running OSRM preprocessor and then OSRM distances. So go to the OSRM preprocessor app, and then you drag and drop your OSM PBF map file, and then set it for, again, probably 2 to 3 hours, and then run it. It'll probably take less than an hour, but just set it for 2 to 3 just in case. And the outputs will be a folder of OpenStreetMap or open source routing machine formatted map files. So this takes the OpenStreetMap file and makes open source routing machine, which is what OSRM means, files. Then after you run that, you'll go to OSRM distances. So you will put your CSV file for the origin coordinates and your CSV file for the destination coordinates. These are the CSV files that were formatted using this app. Then you drag and drop the input directory for map files if you're using your own map. So this would be if you're using OSRM preprocessor, and then that will output a directory of open source routing machine files, and then you would drag and drop that into here. Then you would input the name of the OSRM file without the extension, and then the time that you'd want to set this for would depend on how many coordinates you have. So if you have a ton of coordinates, you would want to set it for maybe the maximum of 48 hours, just in case the job will end once the app finishes anyway. So the next possibility that you can do is with your own map, you would just do OSRM full. So instead of doing either of these, you would just do this one and not these two. So go to OSRM full. Over here, you drag and drop your OSM PBF map file. Then you drag and drop the CSV file with the origin coordinates and the CSV file for the destination coordinates, again, that were formatted using this app. And then again, set it for as long as you think you'll need, possibly 48 hours if you're unsure and think it will take a long time. And as I said before, this will do the pre-processing stage and the distance finding stage all in one go. And actually, there is one more possibility, one more route through these. So there's a third one. So if you don't have your own map, if you want to use one of our maps, we don't have very many maps at the moment. I think just the map for Texas, but in the future we plan to have the apps for each state and the app for the U.S. or a map for the U.S. And so if you want to use one of our maps, then you would not run this, you would not run this, you would only run OSRM distances. So again, only this app. So you would go do this, and then go straight to this app. So for this example, let's go to OSRM distances. Drag and drop the CSV file for the origin coordinates and the destination coordinates, again, that you made formatted using this app. You would skip these two that we had filled out earlier. This is, as it says here, only needed if you're using your own map. But in this case, you're not using your own map. So just leave these blank. And then here, you would choose a pre-prepared map. And so you would choose, for example, Texas. We don't actually have California and New York yet. I believe we only have Texas. And one thing I forgot to mention is if you're doing the first route, which are these two, you will need to select custom map specify. That's if you're using your own map. But again, in this case, in this third case, you're not using your own map. So again, you leave these two blank and choose which map you want to use. And again, you select your maximum job runtime depending on how long you think it would take. And this will output the distances. For all three routes through the apps that you can take, it will output a CSV file, which is a table of distances between each combination of origin and destination. And it will also output a separate CSV file with that same information, but in a matrix format inside a CSV file. And after that, you'll have your street distances.